While this podcast isn't rated explicit, the content may not be suitable for younger listeners. Welcome to Sex for Saints, the Christian couple's guide to great sex. I am your host, certified sex and marriage coach, Amanda Lauder. This is episode 309, Are You Using Your Wife for Sex? Welcome to Sex for Saints, a podcast for Christian couples. My goal with this podcast is to help enlighten, educate, and inspire you to understand yourself, your spouse, and your sexuality better. I talk about sex in a way you probably haven't heard before. I'm bold, I'm direct, but I keep everything in line with my strong Christian values. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. So happy to have you here. So we are in the middle of college conference season for softball, and my middle daughter plays college softball. And so we are traveling every single weekend to see her play. She has double headers every Friday and Saturday, and we're going anywhere from Idaho to Las Vegas to Colorado and all over the state of Utah. And it is kicking my trash. Being gone 2 days a week, every single week, is really challenging in order to get things done. But it's really fun watching her play. Just as another note, if you've been listening the last few weeks, if you use the code podcast when you check out for my membership for women, then you're going to get half off your first month. And a lot of women are taking advantage of this, which is awesome. So many of them are messaging me or, setting up coaching appointments and saying, I had no idea how transformational this would be for me. Thank you so much for this. This is everything that I needed to start making real progress in my life and in my marriage and in my sexual relationship. And I absolutely love hearing that. I'm putting together the class for March right now. I wrote that yesterday, and it's 6 things that are killing your happiness as a woman. And I have to say, this class is the bomb. It's really so good. And so it's available for anyone who's in the membership. All of the classes that I've done in the past are available once you get in the membership. And this one is really, really key to understand why, as women, we, most of us have all the things that we wanted. We got married and, got children and we bought a home and, we have all these things that we thought we wanted and we're still struggling and not happy. And we don't know why. And this class is all about that. So if you join the membership for $24.50 for your first month, $49 a month after that, then you can take this class and it's so good. So I would love for you to join it. Still have some spots available in the couples retreat in September. And I'm going to be opening up the women's retreat for next February, just deposit only, just to see the interest. And then we'll make some final decisions later, but that will be opening up. I have some more space opening up for couples coaching sessions. So if you want to do that, get a consult and then we can set you up for coaching. A lot of things going on. So all of that can be found on my website. Retreats are under events and coaching is under get help in the menu. All right, let's get to today's topic. Are you using your wife for sex? Maybe you found this topic intriguing. I don't know. But I think this is a hard topic because no one wants to think that they're using their wife for sex. But it happens nonetheless. So to be honest, I really don't think that it's done on purpose or consciously or maliciously by any means, but it does happen. Just this past week, there was a post in one of the Facebook groups that I belong to where a wife posted that she was struggling to find desire. But after years of couples therapy, she said, "We have talked many times about the fact that my husband needs sex to feel okay. He's much nicer when he feels okay. His mood and how that translates into his interactions with me and our children says that." So she goes on to say that her husband knows that she doesn't have desire, but it's more important to have sex and than to have good sex where she's actually desiring him. And this is an example of him using his wife for sex. So why does this happen? Well, I think for many men, sex is a means to an end, a way to change how they're feeling. They're not thinking, I just want to use my wife to feel better. They just feel a lot of anxiety and fear and stress and tension in their body. And they may not even realize what's going on in their body. They just know they don't feel right. And they know that when they have sex, they feel better. And they're so focused on changing how they're feeling, changing their state, what's going on for them, that they aren't tuned in to their wife and what her experience might be. So is it a good time for her? Is she in a place where she can relax and enjoy it? Or is it strictly a means to an end? Now, I am not saying this is the case for all, right? But this definitely happens. So unfortunately, men haven't been given the tools for how to deal with their emotions in a healthy way. So like many of us, they reach for things less consciously in order to change how they're feeling. And sex is a powerful way to do that. So when they're looking for an escape from their emotions, they are literally putting that tension and that stress and that anxiety and that fear on their partner to meet their needs, right? And she feels this immensely and it puts so much pressure on her. And she knows that it'll just continue and it'll deteriorate how he's treating her, how he's treating the kids. I mean, he's just on edge and grumpy, maybe short-tempered. And so she knows that if she just gives in and gives him sex, then he'll feel better. And so she's using sex to manage him, and he's using her to manage his emotions. So why does this happen? Well, Esther Perel talks about how men were not socialized to talk about emotions. So the way that they relate to them is through sex often. And this very much relates to the social conditioning that men receive. Again, I don't think this is malicious or even necessarily conscious. They just don't know another way because of their social conditioning. So from a young age, men are often taught to suppress their emotions and seek solace in physical outlets. So as a result, sex can become a default mechanism for coping with stress and tension. Maybe when you were a teenager, it was more masturbation, but now that you're married, it's sex and it's just a way to relax and start to feel better, right? Also, in many cultures, men are expected to be strong and stoic, which can make it difficult for them to express vulnerability when they're struggling. I know many men that, when they're struggling, the last thing they want to admit to their wives is that they're struggling. They don't want to burden her with their emotions, so they just burden her with the obligatory sex. Again, not consciously. Okay. And so they reach out to their wife, right, for that, to get that emotional support, but through sex. They don't even realize necessarily that it's emotional support that they're looking for. And so growing up with this, mentality that they need to be strong and stoic, and it's hard to express vulnerability when they're struggling. And they're seeking out for emotional sources to support them, and they're only looking for their partner to do that. And because of all these things, many men struggle to identify and articulate their emotions, leading them to rely on physical intimacy and sex as a means of emotional release. Now, I think many men experience an innate loneliness. Social convention dictates that they really don't form deep emotional connections with other men when that's actually what they really need. We all need connection, but if your wife is your only source of emotional connection, that is a lot for her to carry. And I know like most women have other women that they connect emotionally with. They want to connect emotionally with their spouse as well, right? But men often don't have those outside friendships and connections with other men. And so they rely solely on their connection with their wife. And that's a lot for her. So I talked about this in episode 275, but I love the show Ted Lasso on Apple TV. So if you haven't seen it, it's about a man from the Midwest who had pretty good success as a mid-level college football coach, and he gets hired to coach soccer or football in England, and he knows nothing about soccer. Now, this show isn't really about soccer. It's really about mental health and primarily men's mental health. And one of the things that I love about this is this coach forms the Diamond Dogs with a bunch of other men that are other coaches and support staff on his team and different roles in the soccer club in England to really help support each other mentally and help talk through their emotions and relationship struggles. And it is transformational for these men because a lot of them don't develop those close friendships where they can be open and vulnerable and share their struggles, which is detrimental to their mental health. It's also detrimental to their value and their self-worth, and it's detrimental to their relationships. And so getting to a place with authentic validation and emotional support from people who are like-minded and support you and support your personal growth is really, really important. And I think a lot of times women do this really well and men do not. And so really finding a support group for men, I think can be invaluable, like these Diamond Dogs. I actually know there is a group of men. Many of their wives have gotten coaching from me. So I hear it from quite a few of my clients that have formed the Diamond Dogs in reality. And it's just a way to support each other in their emotional needs and their relationship struggles and get perspective and ideas from other men rather than always expecting their wife to be their emotional support. And these men love it. And it has been life-changing for so many of them. So I highly recommend this show on Apple TV. I will give you a word of warning. There are a lot of F words. So don't maybe watch it if that really bothers you. But if I think it's such a good show that I even showed it to my teenage son because I think the lessons that it provides are invaluable. And so I highly recommend it. So what do you do if you suspect that you are indeed using your spouse, or if you're the wife, that your spouse is using you for sex and emotional regulation? So here are some signs to look out for. First is a pattern of behavior. So if your spouse consistently initiates sex as a way to alleviate stress or tension without addressing the underlying emotional issues, it could indicate that they are using you as a means of emotional regulation. Okay, could being the operative word here. Emotional disconnection. Pay attention to any patterns of emotional withdrawal or disengagement outside of sexual encounters. This may suggest that your partner is relying on sex to mask deeper emotional struggles. And again, this is for you to recognize in yourself if you're the man, and then wife in your partner. And then the last is lack of communication. So if your relationship lacks open and honest communication about both emotional and sexual needs, despite regular sexual activity, it may indicate that sex is being used as a substitute for genuine emotional connection. So now let's explore ways to overcome this dynamic and foster healthier emotional regulation within your relationship. These are things as wives we can encourage, and as a husband, you can work on in yourself. The first is encourage communication. So create a safe space for open and honest communication with your spouse. Encourage each other to express emotions and be willing to listen without judgment. If you notice in yourself tension, stress, anxiety, or fear, talk to your spouse about it. If you notice that in your spouse, try to get him to talk about it, right? Encourage each other to work through it in a healthy way. The second is to explore alternative coping strategies. So encourage your partner to explore alternative ways of managing stress and regulating their emotions, such as embodiment, things like breath work, exercise, yoga. Coaching or therapy can be very helpful, mindfulness practices, or engaging in hobbies and activities that they enjoy. and encourage them to explore activities and relationships with others, especially. Okay. And then the third is to prioritize emotional connection. Make an effort to prioritize emotional intimacy in your relationship outside of the bedroom. Engage in activities that foster emotional closeness, sharing your thoughts and feelings, going on regular dates, and engaging in meaningful conversations. This is key to a good relationship and a good sexual relationship. Now, remember that sex should be mutually satisfying and fulfilling experience for both partners, not just a means of emotional regulation for one. So by fostering open communication, exploring alternative coping strategies, and prioritizing emotional intimacy, you can build a stronger and more fulfilling bond with your spouse. All right, my friends, that's all I have for you today. Remember, love is a journey, not a destination. Stay committed, stay passionate, and stay connected. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. If you want to learn how to apply what I teach you on this podcast, I want to invite you to work with me in my Embrace You coaching programs. In my coaching programs, I teach you all of the skills and tools you need to have a better relationship with yourself, your spouse, and your sexuality. You also get weekly coaching to help you apply what you are learning in your own relationship. For more information, go to amandalauder.com and click Get Help in the menu to see my programs for both men and women. Like what you're hearing on this podcast? Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Don't forget to leave me a review and share it with your friends.